want to know my favorite animal? People that can't stand watching Harry and Meghan in their element. Something about their obvious affection for each other and their ability to work a crowd really pisses off all the right people. The Invictus Games always provides a good opportunity to see people lose it over Harry and Meghan, and it's such a great organization that does so much good. Plus, they're really good at shutting down trolls on social media. Shout out to the Invictus Games social media people. The opening ceremony of the first ever Winter Invictus Games takes place on February 8th at BC Place in Vancouver, Canada. The Invictus Games, founded by Prince Harry, is a multi-sport event for wounded, injured, and sick military service members. The games are held every few years in a major city and feature adaptive sports. This year's Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 will be the first time. The games will include winter adaptive sports. And it marks a major expansion for the Invictus Games. But because there is a population of people that profit from spreading hate about Harry and Meghan online, the Invictus Games has become a target of trolling. So, in honor of the Invictus Games, let's debunk the biggest lies and conspiracies about this great organization, because honestly, they're hilarious. I promise you won't be disappointed. Number 1, the Invictus Games is failing. There is absolutely no evidence of this and plenty of evidence to the contrary. Brazil and Lithuania joined the Invictus Games community of nations ahead of the 2025 Invictus Games. They will participate in the games for the first time in Vancouver Whistler. Around 550 competitors are expected to compete, representing a record 23 nations. Last year, the Invictus Games School Program, an initiative designed to educate students about the Invictus Games, highlighting the resilience and strength of the athletes who compete, began. And just last week, the groundbreaking ceremony for the brand new Armed Forces Invictus Center took place in Abuja, Nigeria. The Invictus Games 2025 opening ceremony will feature an impressive lineup of musical performances like Chris Martin from Coldplay alongside Katy Perry, Noah Kahan, Nelly Furtado, Jelly Roll, Bare Naked Ladies, and The War and Treaty. Major broadcasters like ITV, TSN, and 9 News will also show this year's Invictus Game. Failing organizations generally don't experience positive growth and expansion or partner with major broadcasters. So contrary to what trolls like so-called royal expert Angela Levin have said, the Invictus Games isn't failing. It's thriving. Number 2, the Invictus Games is going to fire Prince Harry. This lie is brought to you by the same woman who said the Princess of Wales donated a kidney, Angela Levin. And honestly, it makes me laugh out loud. In March of last year, so-called royal expert Angela Levin spread the lie that the CEO of the Invictus Games was, quote, easing out Prince Harry in order to replace him with Mike Tindall. Who? Mike Tindall, the husband of Prince Harry's cousin Zara. Nearly a year after Angela Levin first made this claim, it hasn't happened, and there is no evidence that it was ever going to happen. Not only is Prince Harry a veteran of war, still the patron of the Invictus Games, he created it. Mike Tindall's claim to fame is that he's a former rugby star married to a minor royal. Why would former Invictus Games CEO Dominic Reid, who retired last year after 10 years at the head of the organization, try and get rid of Prince Harry when he has only ever praised Prince Harry? In an article about his retirement with People magazine, Mr. Reid said that he could always rely on Prince Harry to take things right back to the men and women who are in need of what we offer. He's been a fantastic support and a really superb person to work with over the last 10 years. Also, why on earth would they replace Prince Harry, the man who built the organization from the ground up, with Mike Tindall? Mike Tindall is virtually unknown outside of the UK. Unlike Prince Harry, he's not a veteran and doesn't have the same understanding of the issues veterans face as Prince Harry does. Mike Tindall certainly doesn't have the same global profile Prince Harry does. Furthermore, Mike Tindall has never been associated with the Invictus Games. 3 days from the start of the games, and Mike Tindall is nowhere to be seen. Even funnier, Angela Levin had the audacity to claim Harry was absolutely furious about it, even though she definitely made the story up. Number 3, over 1,000 veterans have left the Invictus Games. Yet another lie about the Invictus Games by Angela Levin. If there is anyone out there who loves Angela Levin, the time to stage an intervention would have been years ago. Angela Levin claims that veterans feel the Invictus Games have lost their original meaning, and as a result, over 1,000 veterans have left the Invictus Games, and they would like Harry to step down as patron. That must be why they gave him several standing ovations at the 2023 Dusseldorf Invictus Games and sang him happy birthday. This lie is also easily debunked by math. The 2023 Invictus Games in Dusseldorf, Germany, had around 550 competitors. Around 550 competitors are expected to compete in the upcoming first-ever winter edition of the Invictus Games in Vancouver Whistler starting this weekend. So how could 1,000 veterans have left the Invictus Games when the highest amount of athletes that have participated in a single game has been around 550? If 1,000 veterans left as Angela Levin and her fellow internet trolls claim, then there would be no athletes competing in the upcoming games. 300 competitors competed in the very first Invictus Games in London back in 2014. Every Invictus Games since has seen an increase in the number of competitors and the number of countries participating. So instead of losing participants, the organization is actually gaining participants. What's interesting is that Angela Levin, who talks about Harry like he left her at the altar for Meghan, is the only media person to claim that veterans are unhappy with Harry and have left the Invictus Games in the thousands as a result. That's probably because most people have done the math and realized Angela is full of shit. Given the level of scrutiny Harry and Meghan face, if there was even a single anonymous veteran associated with the Invictus Games willing to speak negatively about Harry, it would be front-page news on a more reputable publication than GB News. Yet, there's nothing. Instead, there are dozens of on-the-record testimonies from veterans and Invictus Games athletes literally crediting Harry for saving their lives. So listen to them instead of Angela Levin. Angela Levin has a habit of using internet trolls as sources, so that's probably where she got this bullshit from. Number 4. Harry and Meghan use the Invictus Games charity as their personal bank account. Many of Harry and Meghan's trolls believe, without any evidence of course, that Harry and Meghan misuse Invictus Games money and exploit the Invictus Games for their own financial gain. Many of Harry and Meghan's trolls seem to think Harry and Meghan use Invictus Games Foundation money to pay for their travel, security, and Meghan's wardrobe. Or that Harry and Meghan get paid appearance fees by the Invictus Games. Nilufar Puranama, aka Meghan's mole, even spread a ridiculous lie that Harry and Meghan used Invictus Games money to pay for a dinner they had in Vancouver last year, thereby depriving veterans of a good meal. Preventing veterans from eating good food. Add it to the list of bizarre things Harry and Meghan have been accused of. Sounds like projection from Meghan's mole, but more on that later. The Invictus Games Foundation is an official charity registered in England, therefore the organization's entire expenditure is published on the Charity Commission website for England and Wales. This includes tax returns, accounts, and trustees' annual reports which are available to the public, and updated every financial period. There is no evidence in any of the documents that the foundation has paid Harry or Meghan in any way, or covered any of their expenses related to travel, security, or Meghan's wardrobe. In fact, the foundation has been very clear that Harry doesn't receive a salary as patron of the organization. In order for Harry and Meghan to misuse funds, the entire board of trustees for the organization, its bankers and administrators, would have to turn a blind eye. That simply isn't possible. Contrary to exploiting the organization, it was confirmed that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex donated the money they received from Netflix for the documentary they made about the Invictus Games, Heart of Invictus, to the Invictus Foundation. Number 5. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, has demanded that the Canadian government pay for her $500,000 wardrobe. Well, apparently Meghan Markle's penchant for extravagant fashion has once again put her in hot water, this time with Canadian officials, because apparently Meghan, who is known for her high-end designer wardrobe, made an astounding request for $500,000 worth of new outfits ahead of the upcoming Invictus Games in Canada. See what I mean about the Invictus Games being a target for lunatic trolls? Unfortunately for Meghan, her $500,000 request was turned down. This obviously isn't true. I mean, it's just so stupid. I think people are upset and probably a little jealous that Meghan can afford a $500,000 wardrobe. She doesn't need assistance from the Canadian government. This necklace she wore to introduce Prince Harry during the 2020 Invictus Games in The Hague cost $16,000. And I think it's safe to say that if the Dutch government had gotten a bill from Cartier, we would all know about it. Also, $500K worth of outfits for a sporting event? As one astute tweeter wrote on X, Meghan spent 16 days on the 2018 Oceanic Tour wearing 37 outfits, and she didn't spend that much money. They should have at least said $100K to $200K to make their lies believable. I agree. These people can't seem to pick a lane. First, they accused Meghan of stealing Invictus Games funds to pay for her outfits. Now they're saying she's demanding money from the host country. And during the Dusseldorf Games, they trolled her for being dressed too casually and not wearing expensive outfits. Number 6. Canada doesn't want Meghan to attend the 2025 Vancouver Whistler Invictus Games. Yep, that's right. According to Angela Levin, Canada has requested that Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, not attend the Invictus Games because they believe what she wears isn't suitable. Just let that sink in. Oh, and also, they want Prince Harry to come on his own. Keep in mind that a few months prior to this tweet, Angela Levin was saying that they wanted Prince Harry to step down. And now she's saying they want him to come, just not with his wife. Angela Levin is a liar. Not one single Canadian Invictus Games organizer, volunteer, or member of Team Canada has come forward on record or anonymously to say that they don't want Meghan to attend the upcoming Invictus Games in Canada. Angela made this up. The truth is, Angela and her fellow ghouls believe that what Meghan wore to the last Invictus Games wasn't suitable because they're all insecure about their big backs. The truth is, Angela Levin and her fellow trolls were absolutely beside themselves during the 2023 Invictus Games because Meghan looked good. So good that a sweater she wore crashed J.Crew's website and literally every single thing she wore sold out. And now Angela is trying to claim that it's Canada who was so offended by the fact that Meghan dared to wear shorts to a sporting event held in early fall. It's not like Meghan was the only one in shorts. In fact, she was oftentimes a little more dressed up than the rest of the participants and attendees. She wore heels, for Christ's sake. In addition to disrespecting the veterans by daring to wear shorts, apparently Meghan disrespected the veterans by participating in a medal ceremony she was asked to participate in by veterans volunteering at the Invictus Games. First of all, this is not a military procession, so accusing Meghan of stolen valor is stupid. Second, Meghan was asked to participate in the medal ceremony by veterans who were handing out medals, so why are you getting offended on their behalf? The faux outrage is stupid. They even showed her how to walk in formation. Third, Meghan is the wife of the patron and founder of the Invictus Games, who is a veteran of war. She wasn't doing anything wrong. And she had every right to be there. Interestingly, the people who are pretending to be offended by this are absolutely fine with Kate having honorary military titles and cosplaying army, despite never serving. And they're fine with other members of the royal family participating in military processions in full uniform wearing a chest full of pretend medals. Also, let's get real. They want Meghan there. The media is obsessed with her. The Invictus Games is an amazing organization. But do you really think that major networks like ITV would be so keen to cover the Invictus Games if there wasn't a chance of seeing Harry and Meghan together? Number 7. The Invictus Games is in financial trouble. Nope, the Invictus Games is not desperate for money. There was never any concern that the organization would not be able to operate. This is about as true as Kate donating a kidney. Again, the Invictus Games Foundation is an official charity registered in England. Therefore, the organization's entire expenditure is published on the Charity Commission website for England and Wales. As you can see, apart from a brief period during the pandemic, the gross income of the Invictus Games has increased steadily, and at no point has the organization's expenditures exceeded its gross income. In other words, the Invictus Games is not and has never been in debt to the tune of millions. With sponsors like Boeing, Jaguar, and Land Rover, as well as government funding, it's unlikely that the Invictus Games would ever be in financial trouble. And while we're at it, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, was never forced to return $540,000 in stolen funds to the Invictus Games. As the community note says, there is no credible evidence that exists to show that Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, was forced to return money from clothing to the Invictus Games Foundation. Invictus financial documents show no notice of repayment or legal demand for repayment. Number 8, Harry is miserable around Meghan.
I mean, you're talking about Meghan there. I went to Germany, to Dusseldorf, I think was the last games. And Harry was there for the first couple of days, and then Meghan turned up. And there was an atmosphere change. Yeah. It was fun for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. Then when the Duchess of Sussex turned up, it was a little bit frosty. Things were a little bit odd. There's been lots of rumours, that we've spoken about this before. Yeah. There's been lots of rumours because they spend an awful lot of time apart. There's some professional uncoupling that's been going on. How important is it, do you think, that Harry and Meghan are both there at the Invictus Games to maybe dispel any rumours of trouble in paradise?
Well, that may be the case, but I think...
Yeah, mate, he looks miserable. If the atmosphere was frosty, I'd imagine it had something to do with you stalking them like a creep. Is that not you? Or the fact that at the time of this video, Harry was in the middle of a legal battle with the publisher of the publication you write for, and he knew you were just going to write something negative anyway. Number 9. Harry and Meghan are making the Invictus Games about themselves. This simply isn't true. Harry and Meghan aren't making the Invictus Games about themselves, you're just obsessed with them. Harry and Meghan do not participate in any of the sporting events, and they don't receive any medals. Prince Harry, the patron of the Invictus Games, was just as present during the most recent Invictus Games as he was during the very first Invictus Games. The only difference is that now he has his wife with him, and that's triggering for some people intent on tearing apart everything she does. Meghan arrived late to the last Invictus Game because she was taking care of her and Harry's children. When she arrived, she gave a little speech thanking everyone and expressing her excitement at being able to attend. A completely normal thing to do. Her critics acted like she had released anthrax into the crowd. Harry always makes a speech during the opening ceremonies, and then he makes a speech during the closing ceremonies. Nothing has changed. During the games, he meets with participants and their families, hands out medals, and cheers on the athletes. Meghan does the exact same thing, which is what you'd expect from her as the wife of the patron and founder. If she wasn't there to support Harry, there would be reports of their marriage being in trouble because, apparently, unlike most married couples, they aren't allowed to be apart. I also think people are used to royal women being Stepford wives, always standing silently 2 feet behind their husbands. Meghan just isn't that type of woman. It's also not Harry and Meghan's fault that the media is obsessed with them. A recent media analysis reveals that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle receive a disproportionate share of coverage compared to other royals, despite stepping away from royal duties in 2020. Together, they account for over 57% of all royal media stories. That attention isn't exactly a bad thing for the Invictus Games. People are worried about the wrong brother because Prince William is the one who actually centers himself in all of his projects. His documentary about homelessness was more about him than homeless people and the problems they face. The veterans are the face of the Invictus Games. Prince William is the face of his eco-initiative competition, not the winners. Despite the carbon footprint, he flew to Boston for a big, extravagant award ceremony, even though none of the award winners attended in order to reduce the event's carbon footprint. What did Prince Harry do? He used his platform to create a documentary about the Invictus Games in which the athletes were front and center. So stay mad, I guess? If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. I know this was a long one, but there was a lot of bullshit to cover. I plan on cutting down the video into shorts, so please don't forget to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And don't forget to follow the Invictus Games, which start tomorrow, Saturday, February 8th.